What is up, YouTube? This is T1 coming at you with another video, and well, folks, we're at the halfway point of my final little stint here on YouTube. Just 5 more months. But I wanted to talk about Smallville Season 5, because as I've said multiple times, I'm doing a review of Smallville every month. Season 4 was a giant step backwards, if you've seen my review, and honestly, if Season 5 had been that lackluster, I honestly think the show would have bit the dust. Luckily, thanks to the introduction of one of Superman's greatest villains and some interesting new storylines, Season 5 finds a renewed sense of purpose and vaults the series further into the stratosphere. One of the biggest positives is no more high school. I repeat, no more high school. Clark is in college now, which is way more interesting because there's no more prom bullshit or anything like that. Also, unlike Season 4, which felt like it was dragging its feet, this season develops the storylines much further. For example, some of the main characters are living in Metropolis now. We spend a lot of time there. But more than that, this is the season where a lot of lines are drawn in the sand. For example, this is the season where Clark and Lex's relationship comes to a head. By the end of Season 5, they are enemies. And while that's incredibly tragic, it's also pretty satisfying as it lets you know that they are well on their way to becoming the characters we know. For the most part, though, all the arcs in this season are pretty interesting. As I said, the rift grows between Lex and Clark, and Lionel actually straddles the line between hero and villain. He's done a lot this season that is really questionable, but for the most part, he's trying to serve the greater good, or at least Clark, which is quite a change for him. He's always been one of the most selfish characters on the show, but here he's working toward a goal that benefits the world at large instead of himself. And that's just really interesting to see from him. Like all the best seasons of Smallville, this introduces key elements of Superman. For instance, in the first episode, two criminals escape the Phantom Zone. And while that doesn't become all that important until season 6, it's still just cool knowing it's out there. It adds another little level of interest. The big one, though, this season introduces Brainiac. Fuck yes. Played brilliantly by James Marsters, who perfectly captures the ruthless, calculating nature of Brainiac. And he really propels a lot of the most interesting stories. For instance, this Brainiac comes from Krypton, and understandably, Clark has mixed feelings about going up against him because he's the only other piece of his planet left. Another thing this season does really well is take characters to places we haven't seen, much like Season 3. For instance, Lana and Lex begin developing a genuine connection. Don't even get me started on how much more interesting her story arc this season is compared to that stupid witch shit from Season 4. Also, Jonathan Kent runs for senator, and Clark has to deal with serious grief after the highlight episode of this season, Reckoning. Reckoning gave us the death of Jonathan Kent, which all of us Superman fans were expecting, but it's still a pretty heartbreaking episode, and it brings Season 5 to a very dark place, reminiscent of Season 3. There's just a few little episodes there that explore this idea of Clark really grieving, and I found that interesting. The soundtrack was also much better this season. While some of the tracks still feel kind of cheesy, there's a lot more good songs, particularly in the episode Lexmas, which has Ray Charles on the fucking soundtrack. There's one element that I really did not think I was going to talk about, but because of today's events, I wanted to talk about the episode Thirst, which an actor has a cameo in it. Carrie Fisher actually plays the head of the Daily Planet this season, and as some of you may know, she passed away today, which is just incredibly sad. I thought she was a very talented actress, and she was, of course, great in Star Wars, and here she's really good as well because she's got a lot of personality, and I just wanted to quickly say, rest in peace. In terms of the negatives, this season really doesn't have that many outside of, again, the bad effects, and I really wish Brainiac was in it more, because the standalone episodes, while some of them are pretty good, some of them aren't. There's one episode where Clark saves a hitman who's like got the power to turn invisible and tries to repay him, and it's just odd, but not in a cool way. One of the highlight episodes, though, is a standalone episode, and that is an episode inspired by Saw, in which Lionel was kidnapped and put through all these games. I believe it's called Gauntlet. But yeah, all in all, Season 5 is a huge improvement over Season 4, and it brought back a lot of the confidence I had in this show. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. This is T Quentin 1, signing out.